Okay, so one of the most common questions I get from new comic creators is, Matt, are there ways to save money while making comics? Because let's be honest, they are bloody expensive to make. And the answer is most certainly yes. And in this video and the next couple of videos, I'm going to show you ways to save literally thousands of pounds or dollars, depending where you are in the world, without losing quality in your comic. If you are new to the channel, my name is Matt Garvey, and every week I post videos to help you make your very first comic. So make sure you hit that like, share and subscribe button and ring that bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, because my ethos is, if I can make comics, anyone can. And the first piece of advice I'm going to give you when you first start making your comics, and this is advice I've given on this channel many times, and that advice is you need to start small. And the reason for this is no one is expecting you to be the next Grant Morrison or the next Alan Moore straight out of the gate. You need to learn the craft, and I'm guilty of this as well. When I first started making comics 10 years ago, when you start writing comics, we are all very naive about the comic making process. We don't realize that, yes, we are the ones that are writing the scripts, but you need to find an artist to either do the pencils and inks or pencils and inks. Then you also need to find someone to do the colors and the letters and the design and logo and that kind of thing. So, these are the kind of things that cost money. So if you start small with, 4 or 5 page comic scripts, then you're going to save yourself a lot of money by not overextending yourself, because I cannot tell you the amount of times I've seen friends, go out there and think, I can make a comic, and they start with, like the first issue of a, 6-issue miniseries, and they spend their entire bankroll bringing that first issue to life. And then because it doesn't get picked up by a publisher, or it doesn't sell the way they intended it to, they never make another comic again. And I don't want this to happen to you. So I swear to you, I promise you, you need to learn the craft. So please start small. Start with 4-page scripts. Learn the craft. Do a couple of those. Do 5 of those. And then you could put them together and make yourself a nice little anthology and work your way up to your, your first issue or your first miniseries. And the next piece of advice I'm going to give you when it comes to saving money while making comics is, when you are ready to make your first issue or your first miniseries, make it in black and white. And there are 2 very good reasons for this. If you make that comic in black and white, you will not have to pay a colorist to color it for you. Plus, printing a black and white comic is a lot cheaper than printing a color one. So when you're looking for your artist collaborator to bring that comic to life, you need to make them aware that the comic is not intended to be colored either yet or at all, because there is a difference between a comic that is just not colored and a comic that is made to be black and white. For example, with comics like Sin City, or comics more recently like, The Walking Dead, that originally, were made to be black and white to keep their costs low. And in the case of The Walking Dead, there's no reason why you can't go back to that comic later on and color and resell it again once you've built up your audience. So when you're making your first comic, keep it black and white, keep your costs low. You won't need to pay for a colorist. The other big reason for keeping your comic black and white is printing a black and white comic is a lot cheaper than doing a color one. On the screen at the moment, you can see an example from my online printer that I use, Mixam, and I'll be doing some videos about printing and printing costs, that kind of thing, later on. But I just wanted to use this as an example to show you the cost difference between keeping something black and white and keeping something color. In this example, I've put into there build your own deal. 100 copies, of a 24-page comic, which all my comics tend to be. Color throughout, with a color cover, and we've got the paperweights, that kind of thing. And for 100 copies of this imaginary comic that I'd put in, before shipping, the cost is £126.50. Now, if I change that to just a color cover with black and white interiors, that cost drops down to £69.50. That's a saving of £57 or $69 if you're over in the States. So if your comic is going to be a 4-issue miniseries, that means you were going to save £228 just on the printing cost. Then if you include the money you're going to save on not having to pay for a colorist as well, you are talking at least a couple of grand just by keeping that comic black and white. So have a think about your comic. Does it need to be in color? But if your comic does need color, that's not a problem. In the next video, I'm going to show you ways to save money on color comics, again, without losing quality. So make sure you tune in.